It came out as an accident. When I arrived on scene, it was a four vehicle involved accident. The person that was found at fault was Mr. Sepeda. When I spoke to him in reference to what happened, he wasn't able to give me any information as to how the accident occurred. But when I spoke to other people involved in the accident, they advised me that Mr. Sepeda was traveling southbound and then he jumped a median and ended up still traveling southbound, but in the northbound lanes. And he ended up colliding with um, two different vehicles, and those two vehicles ricocheted and hit the other two vehicles.
Wait, I'm confused. I'm looking at the warrant and I don't see any of what was just testified in the warrant. Is there something I'm missing? Yes, Sapita Carlos. So, Assistant Solicitor, have you spoken with Attorney Lane on this case? He does not have any prior DUIs. And I personally believe the bond amount is excessive at this point.
No, Your Honor, I have
ahead.
not spoken to Attorney Lane on this case.
Would y'all like to take a moment? See if y'all can come up with something?
Sure, Judge.
Assistant Solicitor?
And that's fine, Your Honor. Our officer is on. We are ready, but we can definitely try.
Right. And I only say that because I'm not sure how he got a $5,000 bond. That's not our office policy. He's been sitting in jail for quite some time. He does not have a prior. And so just having a hearing today, he still just sits there. Apparently he can't make over $10,000 bond on the first time DUI with then $2,500. So I'm gonna do a breakout room and you guys can see if you can work out something. All right. You should have the links.
All right.
Your Honor, we're ready to proceed whenever you're ready.
All righty. And so did you guys were able to work out anything?
Given the facts of the case, no, Your Honor, not from the state.
Hold on one second.
Yes, Your Honor.
We're going to go ahead and start the hearing. All right. Now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Sapita Carlos, warrant number 2024 WA86224, DUI, 2024 WA86225, no license, 2024 WA86226, wrong side of the road, 2024 WA86227, improper lane change, and 2024 WA86228, open container. Representing the state is Assistant Solicitor Hagler, representing the defendant is Attorney Mark Lane. Your witness, Attorney Hagler.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state would like to call Officer Long. Can you please raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're going to give in this preliminary hearing will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please lower your right hand. Please state your first and last name for the record.
Officer Nevaeh Long.
And can you please spell your first and last name for the record?
Nevaeh, last name Long.
And how were you employed?
By Clayton County Police Department.
And for how long?
Almost 2 years.
And were you employed with the Clayton County Police Department on October the 26th of 2024?
I was.
And are you post-certified and credentialed?
I am.
Are all of your credentials up to date?
They are.
And were you post-certified and credentialed on October 26th of 2024?
I was.
And do you have arrest powers?
I do.
And did you have arrest powers on that day?
I did.
And were you on official duty and working in your official capacity on that day?
I was.
And were you dispatched to 2032 Rock Cut Place, Conley, Georgia, 30288?
I was.
And what county is that address located in?
Clayton County.
And what was the nature of that call?
Came out as an accident. When I arrived on scene, it was a four vehicle involved accident. The person that was found at fault was Mr. Sepeda. When I spoke to him in reference to what happened, he wasn't able to give me any information as to how the accident occurred. But when I spoke to other people involved in the accident, they advised me that Mr. Sepeda was traveling southbound and then he jumped a median and ended up still traveling southbound, but in the northbound lanes. And he ended up colliding with two different vehicles, and those two vehicles ricocheted and hit the other two vehicles. When I tried to, again, ask him information as to how the accident occurred, I could smell the odor of alcohol coming from his person and his breath. When When I asked for his license, he wasn't able to find his license. So when we went to his vehicle to try to find the license, I seen an open container in the vehicle.
Was the open container, was it of an alcoholic beverage?
It was a beer.
And you said that you did ask for his license. Was he ever provide you with a license?
He was, but the license that he ended up providing was an international license.
Did you see any damages to any of the vehicles as a
Yes,
result of
there
the
was
accident?
damages to all the vehicles.
Were there any injuries to any of the parties to the accident?
The only person that had a complaint of an injury was Mr. Sepeda. He stated he had blood pressure issues and he was feeling lightheaded and dizzy. So he was transported by me to the hospital to get checked out prior to being booked in the jail.
And do you see the defendant that you saw on the day of the incident? Do you see him on virtual Zoom today?
I did.
And can you please describe what he's wearing?
Orange jumpsuit.
Let the record reflect that Officer Long has identified the defendant for this preliminary hearing.
Wait, I'm confused. I'm looking at the warrant and I don't see any of what was just testified in the warrant. Is there something I'm missing? I'm looking at the warrant and it has all the warrant numbers and there's no mention of an accident. Am I missing something?
No, there isn't. I have I have five warrant numbers listed.
Right, this has all the warrant numbers listed on it. I'm looking at the warrant. And then there's a narrative, and the narrative does not contain any of what you just testified to. Am I missing? Is there another warrant that I don't see?
Your Honor, you should have the same information that Mr. Zapata, because everything matches up on my end, including the probable cause affidavit matches up with what the officer testified to.
So they didn't
Zapata.
send the, I don't have the affidavit, but generally the
Okay.
warrant itself should include that information. It doesn't. It just says that he drank 2 hours prior and he hit the median. It does not mention another vehicle. It does not mention injuries, any of that. All right, go
Okay.
ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. And Officer Long, how did you conclude your investigation?
After speaking to the other parties involved, getting their statements, and then speaking to Mr. Sepeda, I came to the conclusion that he was at fault for the accident. And due to the overwhelming smell and odor of alcohol on his breath and person, him admitting to consuming alcohol prior to the accident, and the fact that the accident occurred, he was arrested for DUI less safe, an open container.
Was he arrested for anything else?
He was cited for wrong side of the road, failure to maintain lane, and the no valid license on this person.
And why did you give him a citation for driving on the wrong side of the roadway?
Because he was observed driving southbound in the northbound lanes.
And what kind of highway was this? Was this like a 2-lane roadway? Describe the highway.
It's Moreland Ave, where Moreland Ave and Highway 42 meet. So I believe it's 2 lanes, and then there's the median, and then on the other side is 2 lanes going the opposite way.
And why was the defendant charged with failure to maintain lane?
Because he crossed over the median to get to the northbound lanes. So he was unable to stay in his lane, which should have been lane 1 at the time going southbound.
Thank you, Your Honor. Further questions for Officer Long?
All right, Cross.
Hey, good morning, officer.
Good morning.
Mr. Zapata's vehicle, did you notice that it had a blown out tire?
I did.
And did he just tell you that's why his vehicle did what it did as far as the wrong side of the road and the improper lane that his tire blew out?
That's a negative. He told me that he was having some chest pains and he said that he has blood pressure issues. And then he mentioned that he was hospitalized for pneumonia 6 months prior to the accident. I don't know if it was relevant to that time, but that's all he told me in reference to the accident. But his truck did end up in a ditch. So I'm not sure if the tire being blown was in reference to him hitting the median or ending up in the ditch.
And he said that these blood pressure issues, that he'd actually been hospitalized with pneumonia for 6 months recently. And it causes him to get really dizzy at times.
Yes,
And that he was actually really dizzy at this time with blood pressure problems.
he did say that, yes.
And the beer can in the car, was it cold to the touch?
I'm not sure. I did not pick it up.
Were any standard field sobriety tests administered?
No, they were not.
Were there any oxalizer or breathalyzer tests administered?
No,
And were any blood tests administered?
no,
And you said that he had an international license?
yes,
And is that not valid to drive through Georgia with an international first license?
no.
It's illegal.
It wasn't out of any of the states.
What country was it from?
If I'm not mistaken, it was Mexico or Colombia, one of the two.
So you're not allowed to drive through Georgia unless you have a Georgia driver's license?
You have to have a valid license from one of the 50 states.
So international driver's licenses aren't acceptable. All right. Well, thank you, officer. I don't have any further questions.
All right, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, closing argument?
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will ask that you find that there is probable cause for all charges today. Pursuant to the Officer Long's testimony, she testified that she did respond to a four-car vehicle accident in which it was determined that the defendant was the at-fault driver. According to her testimony, during her investigation and speaking with the defendant, she did smell an odor of alcohol coming from his breath and his person. Also, during her investigation, she's found an open container in his car, which is an open container of beer. She also testified that during her investigation, he did not have a license, a valid license from any of the 50 states. According to her testimony, she believes it was a license from either Mexico or Colombia. With respect to the wrong side of the roadway, she testified that the defendant did drive southbound in the northbound lane, and he crossed over the median to get to the northbound lane. And according to her, he should have stayed in his lane, which should have been lane 1. And as a result of his improper driving, that is the reason why it caused the accident, as he did collide with the 3 of the other vehicles who were traveling on that day. And so for those reasons, we do ask that you find that there is probable cause for DUI less safe, driving without a license, driving on the wrong side of the roadway, failure to maintain an open container. Thank you.
Anyway,
Your Honor, we request dismissal of the wrong side of the road and improper lane infractions. These appears that my client was having a medical emergency and was busy. He'd been weakened after being hospitalized with pneumonia for 6 months. Also, the vehicle had a blown out tire. With all those conditions, we'd request that the wrong side of the road and improper lane be dismissed. As far as the DUI, merely the smell or the alleged smell of alcohol doesn't get you there with probable cause for a DUI. There were no standardized field sobriety tests administered, no breathalyzer test, no blood work, no intoxilizer. All we have is empty beer can, and we don't even know, like I said, the officer never picked it up. It wasn't cold to the touch. So we would request dismissal of the DUI.
I have a few questions. Was he taken from the scene to the hospital, or was anybody taken to the hospital from the scene?
Yes, he was the only one, yes.
So why wasn't a breathalyzer or any field sobriety done? Because he was taken to the hospital? Is that why?
After speaking to a supervisor, they stated I didn't need to, based off of the fact that he admitted to drinking prior to the accident occurring, and also the odor coming from his breath and person.
But he did talk to you about, you did recognize a tire that had been blown out.
Yes.
Was there any indication that the tire was blown out because he hit something? Could you tell?
No, we could not tell. Like I said, his truck was in the ditch by the time we got there.
So how many cars did he hit?
It was 2 cars that he hit personally with his vehicle. The other 2 cars got hit from the 2 cars that he hit.
Did he appear to be intoxicated?
In my opinion, a little bit.
Because those facts just, he hit 2 cars going to ditch, and he just, 1 beer in the car. He didn't appear, to your knowledge, to be, all right. There is some probable cause. I guess you guys he can work that out with his attorney once he goes upstairs. But I am finding probable cause for the DUI, for the wrong side of the road, for the improper lane change, and for the open container. But I am dismissing the no license. Officer, you can drive in the state with international license. You only have to get that changed if you decide to reside here. So Georgia does recognize driver's license issued from other countries. All right, so that's the order of the court dismissed the no license. All right, Thank you, officer. You're free to go. And then I think our last one